joining us in studio is the president of the Jamaica Progressive Party, JPP, Gilbert Alexander Edwards, as well as the general secretary of the JPP, Robert Rainford. Gentlemen, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Thank you so much for joining us here in studio for Nationwide this morning. Let's begin here with you, Mr. Edwards, on an item of news that we carried in our 6 o'clock and 7 o'clock bulletin this morning about two of your former caretakers accusing the organization of failing to pay them for the work they did during its 2020 campaign launch. If you could tell us some more on that matter.
That's not really true. And we actually know who they are. We intended to employ people rather than volunteer in going into the election. And we pulled out of that election, so there was no work done. We gave everybody a contract because what we want to do is to ensure that even after the election, if you give up your job and things like that, you still have an income, that you wouldn't be fired from your job, because those are some of the things that was used to counter third party. So we do it after a good intention, but through things beyond our control, we have to pull out of there. And there's three things that caused that to happen. Mm-hmm. So once we pull out, there was no work done. So they're just going by it based on you got a contract that you should get paid. And so that was not the case. The contract was for work done. There was no work done. And so that's really, we were being demanded to pay $1 million to that individual for doing nothing. And she actually went to the ombudsman to where that was settled. But I think for whatever reason, they're still trying now to say, hey, we owe them. And, but it's not true. And if we owe somebody, they would have been paid and will be getting paid if that's the case. So, we are coming with integrity and to the best of our ability to do what is right by the people with anything that we do. And so to hear somebody now, at this point, as we came out to say something, it just kind of send up a red flag to me.
So the contract had said that if it is that they don't carry out any work, they would not be paid.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, a contract, if you go to be employed and you get a contract for certain work, and in that description is for the work done. So it wouldn't matter if the work is not done. Who pay anybody for work not done? It's not done anywhere. Mm-hmm. So.
And you had gone to the political ombudsman with these caretakers who were making complaints, and you're saying
they have gone there, and we've gone and sit and explain everything, and that was settled. Mm-hmm. So, came back now and saying, hey, we owe you. I think it's just a malicious behavior that they're carrying out at this point.
We're speaking with Gilbert Alexander Edwards, the president of the JPP, and we're going to bring in as well Robert Rainford, the general secretary of the party, after the break to focus on their manifesto. Welcome back to Nationwide this morning, having a conversation with the Jamaica Progressive Party, their president Gilbert Alexander Edwards, and their general secretary Robert Rainford, the JPP, the fourth registered political party in Jamaica going up in this general election. On the break, we're having a little chat with both gentlemen, telling us that they have 62 caretakers so far, one left to be settled, and that caretaker left to be settled is for Central Manchester. Focusing now on your manifesto, Mr. Edwards. In the manifesto, it says that you're outlining a $2 trillion transformation plan and a $60 billion reserve fund. Can you share more about the source and structure of this funding and how it will be managed?
Okay, let's talk about the structure. In looking at what would it take to bring Jamaica to a first world status, we're talking about the complete infrastructure of the country redeveloped, where electrical wire and cable wire and underground sewage system, water delivery system. What would it take to bring the country to what it ought to be in 10 years? And I'm going to clarify the 50 years. The 50 years is not about how long it's going to take to develop the country to be a prosperous nation. That's a 10-year plan. When we talk about the 50 years, is that I look at the healthcare, that if you're going to do free healthcare, how does it sustain to last from generation to generation, that every individual can have that benefit without doing something, because a 4% or a 5% tax collect from individual is not enough to sustain healthcare for a long-term period. So given that we were designating 2 trillion to put into the party, okay, how do we allot this 2 trillion? So we have the allotment for infrastructure for healthcare. So 50 billion into healthcare, 50 billion into healthcare, our national security. We are saying, okay, $1 billion per year, along with the 4% tax, and reinvest that funds. It can continue at least. So in other words, I'm saying put in 50 billion in healthcare. It's ensure that at least 50 years it is funded while we collect the 4% tax. So that's where the 50 years came in. We're not saying it's going to take 50 years to bring change to the country, because we're putting the funds in it to develop the entire country. Now, you talk about source of funds. Over the years, being in the state, I began to broken gold, diamond, oil, and stuff like that. When I came across these valuable assets that issued by many different countries, whether it's U.S., China, all of these countries. And so at that time, many people think, okay, these were assets, it's not going to work, anything, whatever. But being in a position, and the people I was dealing with, I started to accumulate these things. And so redemption plans started to redeem these assets, because they are a governmental issue. And so I decided that, okay, when this is liquidated, what do I do with it? At first I thought about, okay, maybe I give every Jamaican family $1 million, but I said, okay, then that will cause problem. And so as time goes by and things begin to develop, and since, I got a call and a mandate to came back to Jamaica, I begin to understand now why God positioned me in such a way that I would be able to collect all of these magnitude of asset that our government issue. And so,
Stick up in, Robert. I just want to clarify a couple of things. Is it 2 trillion US or 2 trillion Jamaican?
no, US.
2 trillion US, which would be
Yes.
320 trillion Jamaican.
Yeah, but Jamaican dollar have no value, so
Very well.
it's not a big deal.
But
Yeah.
you have to make an allowance for the fact that we're mass communicators.
Okay,
So my
okay.
audience wants to get a perspective of the figures involved.
Okay.
So that's why I went to the Jamaican equivalent, even though you are correct that, the
Yeah.
currency not so strong. Fine.
Yeah.
So about 320 trillion Jamaican. So the funding model for the JPP, based on your explanation then, is predicated on the redemption of instruments. You said assets, but I'm going to say instruments then that you can redeem, because you redeem instruments. Yeah?
Right.
So you redeem financial instruments. So you're saying that these instruments issued by several governments representing the foremost economies in the world. You said US, you said China, you said Canada as well?
No.
US, China, and
Germany,
Germany.
Japanese.
So leading European and Asian markets. Okay, the top the blue chip economies in the world. Very well.
Yeah. And
So
you're
these-
talking about assets that going back from World War II, 1930.
Very well.
Yeah.
So these instruments, through assets, so these instruments issued by these blue chip economies, you are intending to redeem these instruments. And when you liquidate those instruments in the near future, the takings from that liquidation, the cash raised from the liquidation, that is what is at the base, the plinth of the JPP's funding plan.
Exactly.
So it's your personal wealth.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes. I've been at this for basically 17 years. Something that I started would have been redeemed in just about 2 years is now 17 years, and it just now get to the point where payout begins from the very top down.
But you do realize, Robert, that if and we're taking you seriously at your word,
No, and take me
that
seriously.
by
at my
virtue
word.
of what you're saying, your wealth will make Elon Musk and company look like paupers, relatively speaking, because not even they have assets valuing north of 300 trillion, as you're saying that your instruments upon redemption will value.
Okay. Let me say something about that, because I used to be at the same believe like most people when they look at Forbes magazine.
Yeah.
That okay, these are the richest people, whatever. Really, the people with wealth is not in Forbes magazine.
And not in the Rob report.
I call Forbes magazine a propaganda magazine, because it's supposed to take away the focus from the people with great wealth. So and so people focus on that, because until I was in the system, I began to know how the world financial system really work. For example, it is designed to circulate 300 trillion. But then you have so many different layers of funding, like you call blue screen, gray screen, heritage funds. And people with wealth, funds is not circulate, it's off leisure. So I also represent, people in Asia and their asset.
Yes,
And
but you must, and I appreciate the explanation, but you must allow me to ask this question. I wouldn't ask this
Go
question
ahead.
normally, but you're a man, you're offering yourself to the people, and you appear to be making full disclosure.
Of course.
So I want you to continue in that vein. So if it is that you have assets, nay, instruments, that you can redeem, which will net north of 300 trillion Jamaican dollars, 2 trillion US, you say, what's your net worth now?
My net worth now?
Yes.
It's kind of what you would say, asset rich, but if I want to use the word, dirt poor, because I'm one who lose everything in 2008 when that crash came down.
Yes.
Houses, everything you could
When the
think.
bubble burst in the US, you got burnt.
Yes.
Yes.
All house I was buying, flipping, everything.
Yes. But what's the value of what those assets still under your hand now? What's the worth of those assets? Of course, less your debts, your liabilities.
You're talking current assets?
Yes. What's
away
your
from
net
those
worth?
instruments?
Yes.
I lose everything.
So all your wealth is
Houses,
in those instruments.
Yes.
And the maturity date for these instruments to be able to free up the cash is when?
It's taking place right now as we speak.
So as we speak, liquidation is happening.
Yes.
Okay.
And all of that, once it materializes, you're going to you plan to pump into Jamaica, the development of Jamaica.
Remember, you're not gonna have 2 trillion and put 2 trillion away. Okay. This is just a part that I think, given the magnitude of these assets, one, I don't think God would have positioned me to have such a magnitude of wealth for me. It wouldn't make sense. And if I could show you what I'm talking about off the here, you'll understand where it's coming from. So I have to think about that. I would have been like a very cruel man to see my nation and the people in such a state and not to do something about it. I wouldn't be different from any more basically.
All right.
So, so what I'm doing is just a
Take your time.
part.
Take
You
your
can
time.
just hold on to
Just
it.
hold it
Okay.
until we
That's fine.
It's just a part of what I think is necessary. Actually, economists in the state look at our plan and say the 2 trillion is not enough. But and I must disclose also that we have another Jamaican who we have the same asset and that's a part of the same redemption.
When he says the
program
2 trillion is not enough for what?
to do what we wanted in Jamaica.
Oh?
In terms of the entire infrastructure, rebuilding schools, replacing hospitals, building houses for the people. All that's in our plan. It's not dependent on taxpayer dollars. So it's that funds that we are going to use now to help the people, to elevate the country and the people where they are.
You speak of a 4% tax. describe the 4% tax for me. Is the 4% tax levied on individuals in employment at a certain level?
Individual income tax and corporate tax.
So it's just all of that rolled together will be just 4% of a person's income.
I think we have it 5%.
5% of a person's income. So rather than some people pay 30% and up, some pay 25, the were 27. You're removing that, replacing that with a 4% tax. A 5% tax.
5%, yes. Because what we're trying to do is how do you rebuild the family? Mm-hmm. Because I've been here for the past 5 years, after gone for 36 years mm-hmm. before I came back here. And I've only gone back to the U.S. like twice in 5 years and spent 2 months and came back. And being among the people, I know and I feel and I see what's going on. And so I want to see family rebuild the family. Because
what's your professional training in?
I'm a medical technologist and an ultrasonographer. Mm-hmm.
And you work in that field for how long?
For more than 30 years. Because I went to the States when I was 19, going on 20. Mm-hmm. And so I've started in, from when minimum wage was $2.75,
yes.
secured a job.
Stick up in Gilbert. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't want to be Gilbert's finance minister, managing so much money that through the consolidated fund, because that's a hell of a responsibility, significantly more than any finance minister in our history would have had to deal with. I want to ask General Secretary something. Robert, many Jamaicans would remember, some wouldn't remember because things are happening so fast, people would remember that you've served as a public servant. You were permanent secretary in the Ministry of Local Government and Justice, yes. And you have a lot of experience at that level where dealing with matters concerning service delivery and governance, corporate governance, all of those things are concerned. The idea of the JPP, what do you think needs to happen for this idea of the JPP to take root in the minds of Jamaicans as a serious option come election day?
The Jamaican society is really crying out for change. And there are snippets of good things happening in Jamaica. And therefore, there are persons who are available to help to transform this nation. And so I believe that once we get the resources and we have the people here, I believe that we are a good set of people in Jamaica. And the challenge that we have always had is limited resources. Mm-hmm. You want to do things and you just can't do it because you just don't have the funds to do it. And I believe that what we are attempting to do is to lift the Jamaican population. I spent 16 years in the public service, and you see the challenge.
Yes.
You see the challenge. Your budget is never enough to do what you want to do. Every year, just over and over and over and over. So if once this comes along, it means therefore that we'll be able to do the things for the population and not just for a few. Not just for it has failed us over the years. Yes. It has failed us.
Can we take a quick break and come right back, because we have to pick up this conversation, giving some time to the JPP to talk about the basis of their pending contract the contract that they're extending to Jamaica to support them at the next election, because they say if you want change, then you can't keep going back to the traditional forces in the political sphere. You need to give a new party a chance, is essentially what this JPP is saying. More after the break. Welcome back to Nationwide this morning. The Jamaica Progressive Party is in the house with its president, Gilbert Alexander Edwards, and its general secretary, Robert Rainford. The party serious, it says, about forming the next government, with 62 caretakers standing ready to answer the call when nomination day comes and to give people an option, they say, on the ballot, away from the traditional forces of JLP and PNP to determine how the country is run. I want to ask you, Mr. President, well, Mr. General Secretary, rather, do you have the fear that perhaps your president, who says that he has these enormous, well, enormous is not the word to describe it. You need a word that is rarely used that really describes something big. You need gargantuan. You need something like that. Something just off the scale. There's no scale for the wealth that your president says he possesses. So what's to stop your president from becoming emperor? If the JPP gets office, given that it is effectively going to be his money that is running government, running the country, and of course running your JPP party.
As a faith-based organization, we definitely don't have any fear of that. We have worked with our president from the inception, and we are satisfied as to how the structure will work when the funds are put in Jamaica. We're going to have the people of Jamaica trust, and the trustees are the ones who will decide how the money is spent. We have to apply like anybody else and say, we're going to do this project, and they're satisfied that the project is okay, and so on. So it is not that he's going to be doling out money every time we need, but the money will be placed in a trust, the people of Jamaica trust. And there are some activities, some decisions have to be made where we have to have the people decide that this is really what we want, and so on. So I am satisfied that he will not move in that direction. And because of the person that he is, a man of God, like most of us in our party. Yeah. And therefore we believe
but
that.
A couple of things on that though. I want to say to you that the way politics is run and the way that you need to have a constant call on resources for response to disasters, especially in a country like ours, hurricane prone, earthquake prone, all of those things. To have money locked away in a trust does not lend itself to good governance. You need money in an account that it can be reached easily. So I don't know how the trust part will work, but set that aside for once. You say that because it's a faith-based organization, your president is a man of faith, and so you trust that that will guide the decisions and actions. But we've seen disputes at the highest level of the church. There have been many papal disputes, Pope and those around him at the Vatican at the level. The other significant churches in the world have been riven with strife and division over time, backstabbing, conniving. It happens everywhere at every level. So I'm just saying, I'm not saying that that will happen with your party. I'm just saying, what safeguard are you contemplating that will prevent the president, who is cash rich and is investing his hard-earned money, he says, into the party and into the government, into the country, from a dispute breaking out that causes him to say, you know what? He takes his marbles and he goes. How can a country posture itself to be run like that, Mr. Rainford?
The president mentioned also that he's not the only person, that there's a Jamaican who wants to support the action that we are doing as a party. And there's a third person who wants also. So it's not in one basket, really. But I believe, and I'm convinced, just like how you have the consolidated fund in Jamaica, where that's where you get your funding from. Every month you get a warrant from the Ministry of Finance, and it comes to you, and then you have to spend it and so on, and then you have to make sure you spend it correctly because the Auditor General will come down on your case. As a public servant, that's what I had to do. But I'm saying the similar situation will occur where that trust will operate like the consolidated fund, where people, you draw from it and so on and so forth. So after he has placed that money in that trust, it doesn't belong to him anymore. It belongs to the people of Jamaica Trust. So, my expectation is that he doesn't have control over that. And the heart of the man, because he could have just taken his wealth and go buy an island and buy a yacht and sail around the world and so on and so forth. And here he is, coming to this nation, that every time we walk around, every time we...
But some would say he's buying this island by virtue of what he proposes to do.
Not under my watch, really. Not under my watch at all.
I could understand that people will think that way because it's the norm of the world. You hardly see anybody do anything for anybody. Everybody's just selfish. And as I've always said, I'm not doing this because I have the ambition. It's a call. And it's not even to say, okay, I'm doing this, because God positioned me in a way that I was able to accumulate this wealth, gave me the mandate to come back to Jamaica for the building of this nation, and I'm making that plain. So I'm not doing the country a favor, anyone a favor. I'm doing what God mandated me to do, and the resource is not mine. I see myself as a steward over what God placed for me.
Mr. Edwards, you said you left Jamaica at 19. Are you a U.S. citizen?
Yes.
So you plan to give up that citizenship?
That's in the work. I already have the attorney to start work on that. Yes,
Okay.
not a problem. So, and people will have fears because, as I said, people are generally selfish and self-serving. And as Robert said, what would hinder me to just say, buy the yacht, buy the jet? Yes, I don't know about the yacht, but I'm going to have the jet. And sail around the world, because a yacht to me is just a waste of resources. I could do that. But as I said, where's the love that would be in my heart to watch people suffer day in, day out, especially being here for the past. And it's the most humbling experience for me. And I'm a transparent person. I don't care what people think I say. I'm telling my testimony. I know where I'm coming from, what I've lost, where I've been, and how God positioned me. Because when you have purpose, you have to go through a whole lot of stuff. And the heart of everything, that when you're dealing with people, whether it's church, whether it's a business, as long as you're dealing with people, you have to have a genuine love and care for people. And if you don't have that, you're going to be self-serving, and set yourself up on a pedestal and everybody worship you. I'm in the trench with everybody else. I know what they feel like, because I stand in the grocery line since I'm here, looking at the screen to make sure, because I don't have no income coming in. I'm not 65 to get pension benefit. I don't have a job here. Everything that I have, use up. Okay, and I didn't expect that these assets would have took so long. 17 years and going through. I heard all the name callings, everything you could think of. But I love my people. I love my country. And I will not be blessed by God and sit back and watch the people suffer. That's why we put the plan that we have together. It's about the people.
And on that plan, we're getting to wrap up soon, but I have to ask this, Mr. General Secretary, what is your plan for some sensitization sessions to spread the message of the JPP's manifesto and intentions to as many people as you can before we reach election time?
All right, one of the strategies that we plan to use is to have the manifesto in every home, printed, and everybody get a copy. We have a flyer, the 365 days and beyond. That is an easy read, and person can get that. So we'll have that to go around. We'll be all over social media, all over the media houses and so on. We're really going to have a real push, because time is of the essence for us and so on. So we have that. The other thing we plan to do is we're going to have a nationwide tour where we go around in every parish. And so for 2.5 weeks, we'll be moving around Jamaica so people can see us and hear from us. And
You plan to start when?
We are expecting to start by the end of July.
It's like you know something we don't know when the election going to come.
Put it like this. We position ourselves over the years from 2020 when we pulled out, because we stay quiet and build quietly for a purpose. And number one reason, I didn't want us to go back there where when we started out, one of the reasons why we have to pull out is not that just it's 3 reasons. Number one was that when the fund was supposed to be released at that time, suddenly everything just come to a halt. Yes. And they had different things, because since it's a global event, and it just took longer, and it took us by surprise because after waiting 12 years,
You thought the bonanza was coming, but it didn't come.
yes, so we went out happy, and then all of a sudden the election was called, and so everything go on hold. So when people say, "Oh, it's because they don't have that wasn't it. We don't have no control because it's our government process."
Let me ask this quickly though. So 62 caretakers in place as well already to total town. Central Manchester State outstanding, which I expect you to fill based on what you say. So this would represent the first time that we're having a third party that would be fielding a candidate in every constituency. We don't reach there yet because we're not at nomination day to give you that honor, but you're on track to do so. So you're on track to field 63 candidates. And based on the road that you have between now and whenever Mr. Holness says election time, is there enough time for the idea of the JPP to seep through sufficient for you to be the one to get 32 seats? Are you aiming for 32? Are you aiming for enough to form a coalition with one of the other
I'm
two?
aiming for 56.
56 seats.
Yes. We want a landslide. It might seem
56
impossible.
seats.
Yes.
No, nothing
it might
is
seem
impossible.
impossible, but it's not. But remember, we quietly been under the radar.
Yes.
People know more than you think.
Yes.
And we've been sending out our manifesto circling around because I didn't, for the same reason, I didn't want what happened in 2020, that because we came out, then they call a snap election. We want, if they call it in 30 days, we are ready, and it's only a matter of advertising on the radio.
I would say to you two gentlemen though, that the race for political office is not an under the radar thing. There are many things that are done very well under the radar, but looking for political office, seeking political office is not one of those things. You have to be loud and out there up front.
And we have the time to be loud now. Even if it's the 21 day, we're going to be loud in that. But remember, the foundation has been laid.
Yes.
And we have people that are, I mean, think about what is happening now. Look at the polls. You have the two party vying for 37, let's say 37% from the last election.
Yes.
Okay. And even so, you're going to have more people disenfranchised from the 37% right now, because if you go around, a lot of people say they're not going to be voting, neither for both party. This is an opportunity that the people have now for the first time to vote for a third party that is viable and can run the country.
What is your position on the school bus system? That has been the center of a dispute between the government and the opposition.
Even before the start of that, being in the state, I understand how school bus system work. The school bus system work in the state where you pay a tax for education tax and your property in your tax bill each year for healthcare and for education. So there's funds to support school in terms of a school bus system. But the school bus system is like they in the morning they pick up the kids, drop them off. The school bus go and park until 2 o'clock.
Right.
They go back and pick it. It's park again.
That's what the government of the JLP is proposed. Will do.
How would that maintain? How will we maintain that? And if you're going to do the school bus system, is it going to be nationally? How is it going to work? The plan that I thought about even prior to them talking about that, knowing the problem that the school system have, is that we take each parishes, divide the parish into major cities where there are 4, 5 city based on size. Then you have your elected mayor along with your city council. Every city now will have its city hall, so it's going to be micromanaged on a city basis. That means your school, the transportation system is going to be city based. So what happened now? You're in the school hours, you run the larger bus, okay, and more bus on the school route so that kids can now properly get to school on time. And then in the day now, you have the smaller bus that pick up passengers throughout the day.
So essentially we're out of time, but you're localizing the bus service.
Localizing the resource. That will work better than what, because you're going to have some people serve and some that don't serve. And then how do you maintain it? Because the road itself is going to just destroy those vehicles in no time.
I hear you.
It's how you maintain it. It's a good plan to have that, but I think when you're dealing with the public, both taxi driver, JUTC, there should be a standard that you don't have to remove. You'd have to go directly to school bus because it's going to be like a waste of resources
Hear you.
if it's not managed well.
Hear you. Gentlemen, thank you this morning, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you.